Good evening, it's 6 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. Abby, are you taking the roll?
Sure. Commissioner Applikowski.
Here.
Commissioner Goodwin.
Present.
Commissioner Steeler.
Here.
Commissioner Young.
Here.
Commissioner Wagner.
Here.
Vice Chair Stender.
Here.
And Chair Gerard.
Here. We're asking if you're able, please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chair is looking for a motion to approve the agenda as presented or with changes.
Move to approve.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. It's a non-debatable motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. We've come to the open forum.
Could you let some folks know there are still some seats in the front
Oh,
here?
just like church, we got seats in the front row, close to the frontier.
Act like you like each other.
Yeah. Thank you. We've come to the open forum part of the meeting. This is where we ask anyone in the audience that would like to come up and spend a couple of minutes giving their thoughts on any issue. We'd be happy to hear from them. I have a list that we will start with that goes down in order. Once we have been through the list, if anyone else wishes to talk, you will welcome you up to the podium, and when you finish, please sign this sheet when you're done. So with that, you do need to come up and state your name and address for the record and spend just a couple minutes. I've got a lot of people here, and I don't think we want to be here till tomorrow, but we're interested in what you have to say. So I have Daniel Budke, and I apologize in advance for all the names I massacred tonight. At 4926 210th, sir? Again, start. You can state your name and address for the record.
Daniel Budke, 4926 210th Street North, Forest Lake, Minnesota, 55025. Part of the south side of Clear Lake neighborhood. I guess we're just all here, I would assume, to try to object to the building of this multi-tenant housing unit, which none of us are really looking forward to. I wanted to bring up two quick points. I don't want to be here all night, and I'm not going to lecture for long. My two quick points are this. Number one is simply that it's going to directly hinder or possibly destroy the already deteriorating water quality of our lake. And it's all over, well documented, the Minnesota DNR website. Really quick couple things. I got this off Minnesota Pollution Control Agency this morning, that the mercury and PFOs and the PFOS in the lake are already extremely high and unsafe. We're only allowed to have one serving of fish now per month safely. That's what's recommended. And in fact, they even said, and I have right here, that, let's see, all species are contaminated. Do not eat, all sizes, and it says PFOS and mercury is also involved per the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. Obviously, runoff from this facility would greatly hinder the health of the lake. The marshland that would be filled in to build this complex can't be simply moved somewhere else because it's directly located between Highway 97 and the lake. That lake is then filtered through the marsh, the runoff from 97 filtered through the marsh, all the phosphorus and all the chemicals, which are greatly filtered naturally through that marsh into the lake. So if this is removed, it can't be replaced. You can't just simply move it somewhere else into Forest Lake, somewhere in a cornfield or whatever, and have it filter into our lake, which is already contaminated, via the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency and the Minnesota DNR. It's broadly documented per those two websites. So I think a lot of people are gonna talk about the health of the lake coming up, so I can stop now, but on that. My main concern though, however, is far graver. It's the traffic load at Everton and 97. Now, if you all look at the monitors, I have a Google Earth image of the previous layout of the intersection. Now, note the left turn lane from eastbound Highway 97 to northbound Everton. You see, and then if you look at the left turn lane on westbound 97 towards southbound Everton, do you see how those two directly line up face to face? All these years we've been turning left and never given a thought about it. Because if there's a semi parked there turning left into Quick Trip, and we're heading eastbound turning north onto Everton, we can still see. Any vehicle in front of us, we can still see down the road. You see what I'm saying? Now, this is the new layout. You see how it's offset? Now, that is a design flaw or something MnDOT didn't catch, I don't know, but now, the brief period it's been open, I've almost been T-boned several times taking that left turn. Because now, you are blinded by any vehicle turning left into Quick Trip or turning left into southbound Everton. You cannot see beyond that vehicle. And especially if it's a large truck, a box truck, a bus, a semi, anything larger than a standard small car. And even then, you're hindered. It's an incredibly dangerous situation already. And now you want to pile 228, possibly 500 residents, 228 apartments, 500 residents piled in there, probably with multiple, all with cars, and they're all going to be piling in, taking that left turn during rush hour in the afternoons when people are doing 60 miles an hour, 70 miles an hour down this road. And at 60 miles an hour, a car travels 105 feet in 1 second at 60 miles an hour. There's no way you're going to see those cars coming. You got to inch out. And in 1 second, in 2 seconds, that car is 210 feet behind you or behind the obstacle. You can't see it. It's not possible. So in the 2 seconds it takes you to inch out into that intersection, you're done. And it's going to happen. If you overload this intersection with people, someone's going to die. Someone's going to get killed, hands down. The only reason that hasn't happened, as I showed you earlier, we could see all these years, you could easily turn left safely. Now you can't because of this design. So if you overload that right there, people are not going to be able to see. People are going to be rushing, and I don't know what you're thinking. You're going to say, well, we'll just put up a turn on green arrow only sign up. Hey, problem solved, right? No. It makes it just as dangerous in a different way. Then what happens is they shortened the left turn lane now. So this new design is shorter, so the cars pile up quicker, now because it's so overloaded with people, that you're going to go out of the main flow of traffic in that main lane. And we all know it's all backed up almost all the way to the light several times, all the way to the light in Columbus. So now people are going to get frustrated and they're going to jam out onto the shoulder saying, well, I'm going right, I'm going to turn into Quick Trip anyway, I don't need to wait in this, and someone else is going to have the same idea and they're going to hit. Someone's going to get rear-ended, or God forbid, someone's going to go up on the pedestrian path and hit somebody on a bike or walking, an elderly couple taking a walk, a baby in a stroller, who knows? It's going to happen. And these cars are not doing 60, they're doing 70. So I'm just telling you, this is an incredibly dangerous situation. Left turn on green arrow isn't going to solve the problem by any stretch of the imagination. It doesn't matter, and that traffic is going to pile all the way back up to the highway almost. Every single rush hour, every single day, especially on Friday afternoons when everyone's jamming to the cabin. So this creates an incredibly dangerous situation, and someone's going to be killed. So your decision here today is immense. Someone's life in this room probably depends on it. And statistically speaking, it does. So don't make the wrong choice. I'm telling you, this can't go through. Move it somewhere. I'm not saying don't build the thing. I'm saying just pivot, move somewhere. The land can be repurposed, rezoned perhaps. We can always rezone. Nice high-end homes, perfect, done. No pressure on the intersection, no pressure on the resources, really. So that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you for your comment. I will ask for decorum. There will be no clapping, cheering, etc. We need to get through this. Please let everyone just comment. With that, we have Dana Bona. Did I pronounce that?
My name is Dana Bona. I live at 5050 210th Street North, Forest Lake, Minnesota. I've lived there since 1999. I was born and raised in Forest Lake. I was born here in 74. I reside over at 456 South Shore Drive my entire life. I love Forest Lake. I'm a little emotional because I'm really upset about this. I purposely we bought out at Clear Lake because of the fact that it was kind of getting out in the country, but yet I was still in the city. The lake was small. It wasn't overcrowded like I grew up on Forest Lake where we couldn't water ski and tube. The lake was a clean lake, no weeds, none of that other crap going on. And when I come home to find out that we're trying to build an apartment complex is at the end of my road. And I don't want that. I don't want the riffraff. You don't want the riffraff. And you can honestly tell me, we were here in 22, I think it was, the Headwaters. You guys were in Section 8 housing in. There was a huge fight about that one. And we were assured by the city council, it'll be great, it'll be fine, we're gonna overcome this, we're gonna cover it, there won't be any problems. And the following year, the Forest Lake Times wrote that over 50% of our police force calls were being sent to that Section 8 housing. So the rest of Forest Lake, we get the other 50% of the police, and now we're gonna add more housing over here that's apartments. And I know right now you're all like, oh, it's just apartments, guys, don't worry. It's not just apartments. Our city has one of the highest of rental. We're at 23 to 25%, depending on the month and the non-occupancy. That's a high amount of rental already. And for our police force and our fire departments and things like that to have to cover that entire area, and we were talking, 21, you guys were trying to dismantle our police department? I mean, what are we gonna do, just let them run amok? And the next thing that's gonna happen is, this apartment buildings are no longer for just apartment buildings, they're gonna be Section 8 because now the city can get more money off of that. I don't want that. I don't want the riffraff coming down and burglarizing my cars, which I hear our friends on the south side or on the north side have a problem from the Section 8 housing wandering into their neighborhoods and riffraffing. They have to make sure their cars are locked. I don't have to make sure my car's locked. My cars are left unlocked right now. Hell, my front door's unlocked right now. I know every person around my lake that's sitting here today. We go out, we pontoon tie up, we do things together. We're all really tight. We don't want this apartment complex here. This apartment complex is gonna bring the crowd that we don't want Forest Lake to be wrecked with. This is a town where your kids can walk the streets. Now we have drugs that we have to worry about. There's talk that the police are having to watch Loves because they're a traffic jam for drug drive. The mules drop off the drugs there and the rest run up to Duluth. I mean, this is just getting worse. What are we gonna do? This is our foot, we're putting it down. I will tell you this, our neighborhood is this strong and this tight. We've already started interviewing attorneys. I am aware by 2 different attorneys. There are precedents in the state of Minnesota where personal parties hired attorneys and sued the city to stop them from doing something like this. And if that's what we have to go to, we have to go to, but they did win. The city actually were sued for the devaluement of those properties. This apartment building will devalue my property, every one of my neighbors' properties, because now you have to constantly have the police out there. The police right now come out there, and if they're sitting there writing their paperwork, we're giving them water, pop, how you doing? That isn't why they're gonna be there in the future. They're gonna be there because somebody's stuff got broken into, stuff got wrecked. I don't want that. That's not what I wanna be. I don't wanna be in the Forest Lake Times because our block got vandalized. Do you guys want it in your houses? Do you want me to build an apartment building right down in your neighborhood? I can honestly say I know each and every one of you don't want that. So I'm begging you, please, think about if this was your neighborhood. And I was the one, some developer saying, hey, I'll give you some money, I can make your life real easy. I can make you guys meet budget. There's other ways to meet budgets for the city than doing this to us. Because once it starts with us, we're just the first pipeline of the city going to hell. And I don't want it to be. And there are towns out there that have said, we're not gonna have this. We need to be that town. We need to say, we've done this, that area's done, we're not doing it anymore. It will kill our neighborhood. You will kill the south side of the lake. I'm begging you, please, think about that and take care of us in that tune. Thank you.
Thank you. Kathy Rodvo? Am I correct on that?
Hi, I'm Kathy Rodvold. I I live on the South Shore on 4946 210th Street. And I'm gonna build a little bit on what Dan had to say. It's bad enough with what's gonna happen with the traffic jam at 97 and Everton. But what about all these people that are gonna be able to go in and out off of Everton? That's a small little road, and a few houses down from there, it goes onto a dirt road. There's no way it's gonna be able to handle the kind of traffic that's gonna wanna come in and out of there. That, right now, that community, the kids can bike ride, they can walk, you can walk your baby, you can talk to your neighbors. It's a quiet, small community. It's a quiet, small lake, and this is a small area of land off the southwest corner of our lake that will destroy what a wonderful place this is. You know, right now, we're safe, and we're not going to be safe if you put that in. It's just the way it is. There's just no possible way that that will happen. I understand progress has to be made, maybe some building done, but do you have to come on and off of Everton? Can you go out to the frontage road? Can you make bigger access off of 97? Something where you're not gonna pull all that traffic in our neighborhood. And with the construction that's gone on Highway 97, when they did the Park by Quick Trip, well, people don't think they have to go around our neighborhood. They come on Falcon and they come flying down 210th until they see, ooh, we can't get out back onto 97. And now that that part of 97 is open and it's closed by Falcon, every day there's somebody that comes down Everton, comes flying down 210th until they see they can't go out. Well, people aren't gonna wanna wait at that intersection, and they're not gonna, if it's only right-hand turns in and out of 97, the way in and out of that area is gonna be off of Everton, the majority of the traffic, and that is gonna put all of us at huge risk. So my neighbors all have something else to say. I beg you, do not do this.
Thank you for your comments. Rob Olson?
Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. My name's Rob Olson. I live at 21700 Fondant Avenue, along with my wife Ginger. I'm like a lot of people. I mean, we live on the lake on the northeast side. I guess a couple things when we received everything. From what I could understand, there hasn't been an informal environmental impact review of this. There sounds like there maybe hasn't been a traffic study like the gentleman had talked about. I drove over there before this with my neighbor and looked at it because we were kind of wondering, where is this anyways? And, you know, Everton, and then we drove down the little private dirt road, I guess, that we probably shouldn't have gone on. And it seems like you're shoehorning quite a bit into an area that has a lot of lowlands. So the concern I have is the effect upon the lake, you know, the runoff to the lake, and is there going to be the same filtering? And so I would ask that the Planning Commission would insist on further environmental studies to look at it. Because, you know, like everybody, I have concern for the quality of the water in that lake. I'm not excited about the fact that we can't eat the fish we used to, but I know that has nothing to do with this complex. But it is going to have 480 cars. I was kind of astounded by that, you know, you're talking a pretty decent sized apartment complex. And that's a lot of vehicles, a lot of runoff. How is that going to be taken care of so it doesn't go into the lake? Also, as the gentleman said about the traffic, I think there really does need to be a traffic study or something done to Everton, because, you know, when I first heard Everton, I said, oh yeah, Everton, that's a big road. But then when you turn right, it's not a very big road. When you turn to the north, when I say right. So I'd ask that that also be considered by the county, the highway engineers, whoever with the city that does that type of stuff. So just instead of, I don't believe that this is the stage in the process where anybody's got an application for actually approval. This is more just an information type meeting, unless I'm wrong. But to that extent, I'd ask that any approvals be subject to further environmental studies and further traffic studies. Thank you.
Thank you. Ian Shortley?
I'm okay right now. I've heard a few people.
And your name, ma'am? I didn't hear Barb. I'm sorry. I crossed you off. I checked you, I didn't cross you off, I checked you off that you had already spoke, so my apologies. You're next then, because you were, Barb, you were third on the list, so my apologies. Come on up.
I'm Barb Benassi, and I live on 4864 210th Street. And for those of you who don't know the area, it's, everybody's talking Everton, but when you take a right, all those homes are on 210th Street. And we all know how people just race on that street. And it's not even it really, I don't think is legally a street, because I think it was probably a dirt road that they put pavement on when people started living there. Because there's no curbing, there's no sidewalks, the street is not wide enough for hardly two cars to pass. And because it's such a peaceful, quiet little neighborhood, people walk their dogs on the street, little kids ride their bikes on the street, people go side by side talking while they're walking because there's room on the street. And we just don't have that kind of traffic. And it was mentioned that people will come in from Falcon, and you know darn well they will, because they don't want to deal with the street light at Everton. They'll come in on Falcon, go zipping down 210th, go take a left and go right into this new development. And so that's my concern. Well, another concern is the quality of the lake. And I don't know if people realize this, but that lake is 28 feet deep. White Bear Lake is 83 feet deep. Bone Lake, smaller than Clear Lake, is actually deeper than Clear Lake. And so right now, there's about 150 to 180 residents on Clear Lake. And, when you say 240 units, that's easily spouse, kids. We're talking maybe 500 more people. Now, is that possible that you can say that this little community can sustain that? The other thing is that really when you think about it, so those people live in an apartment building, they buy a jet ski, they buy a speedboat, all they have to do is go around to the little public access, and those people are gonna be zipping all over our lake, 28 feet deep. You're ruining the bottom of that lake, you're sending all the weeds and tearing up all the weeds and everything. And are those people paying $6,000-7,000 to live there in taxes? Hell no, they're not. And so, we as the payers I'm trying to think of the word and I can't, but we've got skin in the game. We take care of that lake. And right now, it's, as Dan mentioned, it's already really high, and it is on the state's impaired lakes because it's so full of pollution already. And we can't add that many more people. And especially with such easy access to buy a jet ski, just go to the boat landing and put it in, It's not fair to the rest of us. It's not that big of a lake. This lake is 429 acres. White Bear Lake is 2,400 acres, They just can't bring speedboats. And our lake is a little pontoon, fishing boats, a couple people have jet skis, a couple have speedboats, but it's not the zip, 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 zip. It can't handle it. And the other thing I want to mention, which I think is extremely important, is that this area used to be was an Indian burial ground. And this is a direct quote. It said, "The immediate surrounding region is deeply significant and rich in indigenous history. Located just west of Forest Lake, this area contains some of the oldest known Native American burial mounds in Minnesota." Now, did any of you know that? But that should give you a little food for thought, that they should not be putting in that big complex in there. Thank you.
Thank you. Era Swenson? I apologize, I'm having a little trouble reading that. 4839 217th. I apologize if I massacred the name, but,
Eric Swenson.
you know, we don't need to know cursive anymore, just so you know.
Yeah, so, a lot of what I would say has already been said. You know, the lake is, we have a really strong lake association. They do a great job. We have been working with the DNR and the University of Minnesota and Rice Creek to improve it. We currently are running some tests on planting native species in the lake and things like that. One of the things with the access to the lake is I was over there this morning just kind of checking it out, and there's 250 feet of lily pads to get to that access currently, and those would have to be cleared out in order to make any kind of access to that 37 or 40 feet to get to our lake that they currently have. So that's a concern I have of ripping out a bunch of lily pads. I know it's legal through the DNR in certain ways and things like that, buying permits and whatever. But that's ruining a lot of our native species of that lake. The other concern I have is at the end of that 240 feet, the lake level is about 40 inches. At about 50 feet, it's 2 feet. So you put a speedboat in there, you put a pontoon in there, the level of the motor, the bottom of the motor where the prop is obviously gonna stir up the muck and continue to muddy up the water and things like that. So with all that extra traffic that's could go to that additional dock that may be there, that's gonna really increase the clarity or decrease the clarity of our water. So I could see our water quality going down significantly with that kind of traffic. The other thing I noticed was there's a lot of, through the Rice Creek watershed, I went online and looked at the low water basin in that area, and a lot of that area is low water or high water area, 100-year floodplain area, and that would have to be looked at pretty closely on how they filter the water. And that's already been said before, so I'm not gonna go into that. But if you look at the 100-year water plane or the floodplain in that area, it's pretty substantial. Obviously, it goes through the trail that would need to be made to get to the lake or dock or whatever they're gonna do. But that's another concern of mine as well, is how they're gonna get to the lake and what they're gonna do to the low level areas in that swamp area. So that's all I have.
Thank you.
Yep.
Teresa Nisler?
May I shut the laptop?
Yes.
Is it, just so I have somewhere to set. Good evening, Planning Commission Chair, Commissioners, and Commissioner Vice Chair. My name's Teresa Nisler, and I reside at 21045 Everton Avenue North. My spouse and I have owned this property since 2000, over 25 years. We believe in your website slogan, Forest Lake, as good as it sounds, is the primary reason we purchased the property on Clear Lake and across the street from forest, wetlands, and wildlife management areas containing abundant wildlife, protected eagles, and the diversity of plants that come with such a beautiful, serene environment. We are here tonight after submitting our concerns, which should have been included in your packet. So I hope you've read it. If you haven't, please read those comments. My neighbors have done a great job bringing up lots of wonderful points about why this is a negative impact to not only our community, but Forest Lake overall. We are here to request that the Planning Commission, a little different take on the comments I submitted, that you actually abide by the stated vision and goals of your existing 2040 comprehensive plan. The vision statement, and I'm paraphrasing, the city of Forest Lake is known for its natural resources and outdoor recreation. The city's overall vision is to serve as a regional hub while maintaining its natural resources and providing a range of recreational opportunities. As development is proposed, the emphasis will be, again, the protection of natural resources. That has been highlighted numerous times tonight. Your number one goal is protect natural resources. There is absolutely nothing about this concept plan that is going to protect the natural resources of this area. I can tell you, as another gentleman stated, that the Clear Lake Association has worked diligently to not only protect but also provide access through our public boat landing, education on invasive species, and investing large financial resources along with our critical partners to add a fishing pier. We're working on access. We try to make sure that the public has access to the resources. This concept plan being presented is replicating what we're already providing. It's attempting to add a 6-slip boat marina in an extremely shallow vegetation-filled area of the lake, and a complete disregard for protecting this natural resource by adding a boardwalk connecting the development to the proposed marina. Because as the applicant, Stephen Kavan, said, I thought it'd be a nice amenity. Well, I can tell you this is not a nice amenity for any of the people in this room. We are not seeing any of this as an amenity. I'm aware of this commission's discussions in March of this year, beginning to scope the 2050 comprehensive plan. And I just ask you to abide by what you've already said you want to do. And this project does none of it. Forest Lake's current community designation is Emerging Suburban Edge. The planning challenges for this designation require innovative planning to ensure sustainable development and needs to address infrastructure and environmental concerns. Again, this concept plan does neither of those. The concept plan being presented tonight does not address the lack of infrastructure by funneling, as others have stated, close to 500 vehicles down a small residential road that was not designed for that level of activity, nor was the newly finished Highway 97 construction. This concept plan as presented would completely waste the taxpayer dollars that went into the redesign of 97, and it would also require rework and additional construction on Everton Avenue North that was just finished. We respectfully request that this planning commission recommend 3 things, because I know you don't make decisions yourself, you're making recommendations. We ask that you recommend to your decision makers, the full council, eliminate the boardwalk, eliminate the boat marina, and eliminate any entrance or exits off of Everton Avenue North. You've heard that over and over and over again. Everton cannot handle this kind of traffic. There's plenty of open land in Forest Lake for this type of multifamily development. This property is not the place to put this development. Absolutely not. There's lots of other concerns. People have talked about erosion. People have talked about the runoff. Many of us are on private wells. There's already concern about the impact, not only of spring flooding, but of the impact to the wells. This development is going to just exacerbate the problems we've been dealing with, and we've all dealt with them in this community together. We've worked together on so many things, and we care about each other. And we want to keep our neighborhood as it is, a lovely, serene place to live in peace. Thank you.
Thank you. Dina Smith.
Hello, I'm Deanna Schmidt, 21049 Everton Avenue. The home is located at the beginning part of the dead-end street on the south side of the lake. The homes directly across from us abut up to the proposed apartment building. As I stated in the email I sent to you yesterday, I have worked in the apartment business management for 40 years. So I want to be clear that I am not opposed to the building of apartments. Apartment buildings are very important for housing in communities. However, I am opposed to the development of a 228 unit apartment building in this location. Many Clear Lake residents have made substantial investments in their homes and properties, accepting higher property taxes in exchange for unique character, natural beauty, and residential settings that lakefront living provides. With that investment comes a reasonable expectation that we would not suddenly find multiple, large, 3-story apartment buildings directly behind our homes and in our backyards. We also have the expectation that the city will protect our property values and our right to the peaceful enjoyment of the property we have invested in. While many residents and I would prefer that no development occur on this site, I understand that growth and change are inevitable. And I recognize that this project has development rights under the current zoning. I respectfully submit that the commission's role extends beyond determining whether a project is legally permissible. Your recommendations and your guidance carry significant weight and can meaningfully influence this project's development. Development of this site should occur in a manner that respects the expectations of existing residents and preserve qualities that attracted the existing families to this area in the first place. If this project moves forward, I encourage the commission to use its influence to advocate for meaningful modifications that better balance development with neighborhood impacts. Such considerations should include reduced building heights, fewer units, or perhaps townhomes or detached townhomes in lieu of apartments to ensure overall compatibility with the surrounding community. Additional considerations should include increased setbacks, enhanced landscaping and buffering, stronger measures to address traffic, parking, lighting, and stormwater, and consider impacts to existing wildlife and the environment. My hope is that the applicant, the commission, and neighborhood residents will work collaboratively to find a balanced solution, one that addresses my concerns and those of my neighbors while preserving character, safety, natural environment, and the quality of life that make Clear Lake such a special place to call home. I respectfully ask that these concerns, along with those outlined in my email, become part of the public record and be carefully considered as the project moves forward. Thank you for your time and your service to the community.
Thank you. I have reached the end of my list, so if anyone else wishes to address the Planning Commission, we ask that you come up, state your name and address. You guys can work out who comes next. Come up, state your name and address for the record. We are going to put this sheet over where Mr. Larson is there, if he raises his hand. If you would sign that upon your completion of your comments. So, ma'am, go ahead.
I think you skipped me. I'm on the list.
The list left, but I apologize.
My name is Ruth Bloomquist. You've heard from me before in letter form. I live at 21071 Everton Avenue North. Tonight I have more concerns and more questions. Respectfully, what are we doing here? High-density housing on a wetland, wedged between state conservation land and next to a single-family residential neighborhood. Multi-generational families that have been here for decades. Really, this is simply a very poor choice. There are better areas for this. Regardless of zoning, I was always under the understanding that the wetland was not buildable, that nothing could be built on the Hathaway land. Don and Judy knew it was a wetland. They also knew that their land was infested with buckthorn, which is why the state didn't want to buy the land. What has happened that allows for this now? What laws have changed in Minnesota? What happens with this land directly affects how much pollution runs into our lake. I understand that there is a shortage of affordable housing, but really, 22 actual buildable acres. You're going to put 6 3-story apartment buildings filled with a minimum of 228 people. This is more than double the amount of residents currently living on the lake now. Where's the sense in that? Where's the transportation that's available to them. How far is the closest transportation center or park and ride for these people stuck in this apartment? Clear Lake is a small lake that has a strong association that has denied requests for community dock slips in the past. The Lake Association needs to be consulted before any boat slips are planned. Our lake is impaired. We have fought Eurasian water milfoil and now have zebra mussel invasion. The entire concept is a slap in the face to the existing residents and our continued contributions to the betterment of the lake. Why is this happening? Because some developer bought the wetland for a song and is trying to make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. So why is this land zoned mixed use? Because a long time ago, someone thought this area should be the gateway to Forest Lake. Is that what you want for Forest Lake? Our gateway to be 6 3-story apartment buildings? Since we want to be more friendly to developers, let me just ask this. Do we have to let them walk all over our rights as taxpayers and property owners because the Met Council would like us to? What's the Met Council gonna do for us? What about the airport? Those of us in a single-family residential zone were not allowed to build 3 stories because of the airport. Consequently, these apartment buildings, as they are currently drawn in the proposal, will block our sun, will block the sun to the existing homes. So at what point does this bad idea get shut down? The proposal is incompatible with the existing neighborhood. Additionally, the proposal calls for rows of single garages rather than underground parking. MU2 calls for underground parking, which tells me that the land is not suitable for the amount of excavation and displaced materials this project would require. MU2 calls for it, and we need a separation of a fence or a wall to keep our privacy and people out of our yards. The proposal shows 2 buildings and garages that partially fall within the lake overlay. They need to be moved farther south or eliminated. Growth is important. It must be responsible growth. I respectfully ask that you protect Clear Lake, protect the surrounding neighborhood, and require that this proposal meet both the letter and spirit of city's standards before moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to address? Come on up.
My name is Jody Dane. I live at 21191 Everton Avenue on the south side of the lake. I wasn't going to speak, but I have been standing in the back watching and listening, and I can't stay silent. I want you to look at the people out here. The majority of them are retirees, as is the majority of the lake, over 50%. This is their final home. That's a horrible way to say it, but it's all going to end for us someday. They want to spend their last years in peace and not have to worry about who's going to come through their yard trespassing, because the people that will reside in these buildings hold no ownership. They don't care. And they will come across our yards to get to the lake. They will follow the lake shore and come up through our yards. The BCA has statistics on how areas like this, there is an increased property damage level, trespassing level, and break-in level. These people don't deserve that. They have worked all of their lives to be able to enjoy their properties. I have to talk about the human factor here because everybody has talked about the road and the lake quality, and absolutely, that's important. I live on the lake. I know how important that is. I have worked for government agencies in the state of Minnesota. I have worked with the Met Council. I know how the Met Council operates, and I know you're being strong-armed, and it's through the law. Legally, they can do that. But what they can't do is they can't tell you where these types of projects go. That control lies with you. And as you've heard from other citizens, there are other places in Forest Lake where these requirements by the Met Council can be met. And the other piece of that is 20% at minimum is going to be subsidized through different funding that's coming out of the state and the Met Council, which is a great incentive for a developer. I heard today that this project is a go. And this basically tonight is just a formality that you need to follow to let us have our voices heard. I hope you look at these faces and hear what they're saying underneath the lake quality and the traffic issue. This is their lives. Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak? I'll ask one more time. Does anyone else wish to address the Planning Commission this evening?
I just have a question. What are the next steps?
Please step up. We're on TV, you know, so we don't want anyone to miss.
Okay, Judge Judy, okay. What are the next steps? I mean, is the decision actually final at this point, or is it just that we're going through a procedure to say, well, at least they listened to us? So what are the next steps?
I tell you what, how about if I answer that in a little bit, and I can lay out the whole thing for you, you know? Because it is quite a process before we get to the end result. So I want to make sure we've heard from everybody. And I see no one else coming forth and no other hands going up. We'll close the open forum. First, I want to thank everyone who participated in it tonight. We always like to get the input. You wouldn't believe how many meetings that are here that there is no one in the audience. So it's nice to see that the citizens have come out and made their thoughts and opinions known. So before I assume that when we move to the next item, or in a couple items, we'll cover this, but basically the process to answer your question, this is the concept plan tonight. This is a non-binding meeting to have with the developer and the Planning Commission, purpose of which is for the developer to get input on what we like and dislike about this. And then when the developer comes back with a formal application, or the preliminary, is when they'll have locked it down what they want to do. The expectation is they take our comments tonight into consideration. Once the preliminary plat is, if it moves forward and it gets approved, which this approval would come through the council, so it comes to us and we would make a recommendation. Then it'll be at a final, and the final should line up with what actually is going to be built. So that'll take care of all of the, that'll take care of all of the changes that need to be made. Typically, in that case, there's some adjustments that they have to make once all of the wetlands have been delineated, all of the distances are known, all the parking spots may have lost some stuff. All of that would be in the final, all the engineering that's required for the sewer, the water runoff. What else did I miss? All of that kind of stuff would be in the final then. So this is, like I say, a non-binding. If the applicant decides to move forward with this project, it'll come before us again as the preliminary, and that'll be a public hearing also, right during that time instead of the open forum. So that's what would happen next. Abby, have I misspoke?
No, just to clarify though, this is the first step in the process, a concept plan. There'll be two other applications, the preliminary plat and the final plat. Each of those could take up to 120 days apiece. So just know that this is the start of a pretty long process that we go through with all land development projects.
Thank you. So with that, we'll move to item number 6, the consent agenda. Chair is looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented, which is approve the minutes from the regular meeting of June 24, 2026. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a motion and a second? Any discussion?
I will be abstaining since I was absent.
So with that, no other comments, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Yes.
Aye. 2 abstentions. I wasn't here, right? Was I here? Hold on a second.
I think you were here.
I don't think I was. I was on
In the minute-
vacation.
Actually, you were marked present in the minutes.
Yeah, you were here.
That wasn't the one that you missed, sir.
It'll pass with or without you. You could still abstain, I suppose.
I'll still abstain because I wasn't here. I was in Wisconsin. I know where I was. All righty, that's good. So we'll move to our regular agenda item 7, which is the Clear Lake Apartments, PIN 19.032.21.21.0014. Steve Kavan, I apologize if I'm wrong. Applicant, it's a concept plan review, case file number PZ26-1431, and this is an advisory review. The way this will work is that I believe, Stephen, you're going to give a presentation. He'll tell us the application as he understands it. The planning commission will then ask questions of the city. Once all of those have been answered, we'll ask the applicant to come up and answer any questions. He's probably got a pad full of them, or she, I think it's a gentleman sitting here. As probably have some answers for us. Once we have all that, we will have a discussion amongst the planning commission and the applicant and the city to give further direction. So with that, I believe, Stephen, you're giving a presentation.
Sorry, it's the only time I get to order my boss around. So I think we have had a lot of comments on this, and it's all been very civil and appreciative, and I really appreciate everybody coming out tonight, especially the full house. As Chair Gerard said, it's not often we have a full house and we have to pull chairs out, so it's a good situation. And at the very least, at least we brought this neighborhood together. So let me begin. Yeah, true. I stand corrected. You're wasting our time. Yeah. So tonight we are reviewing the Clear Lake Apartments concept plan. This is an early, non-binding review, as it's been discussed. The applicant is not asking for approval tonight, and the Planning Commission is not being asked to approve or deny the project. The purpose of tonight's discussion is to provide early, non-binding feedback before a formal preliminary plat and plan unit development application is submitted. That feedback is helpful because this site has several issues to better understand, including access, stormwater, utilities, shoreland rules, wetlands, nearby homes, and its location near Clear Lake. We have also received significant public comment. Many of those comments raise planning questions about traffic, lake access, stormwater, groundwater, environmental review, construction impacts, and neighborhood compatibility. Tonight's review is not intended to resolve every one of those issues. The purpose is to identify them clearly so the applicant understands what the city reviewing agencies, planning commission, and public would like to see considered in an updated plan. So the main question tonight is not, is this project approved? It is, what would be helpful for the applicant to understand before submitting a formal application? With that purpose in mind, I'll start with a quick overview of what's being proposed. The concept plan shows a proposed 228-unit apartment development southwest of Clear Lake. The plan includes 6 apartment buildings, each 3 stories tall, with 38 units in each building. Because the full concept plan is difficult to read at this slide size, I've added colored dots to help provide context for the main parts of the site layout. These dots are not intended to replace the full plan. They're just a visual guide for the presentation. The apartment buildings are identified with blue dots. The primary vehicle access is identified with a pink dot, and the possible secondary vehicle access is identified with a magenta dot. The concept also includes parking areas and detached garages. With the garages identified by green dots on the plan, the playground is shown with a brown dot, the dog park with a peach dot, the boardwalk connection toward Clear Lake with an orange dot, and the proposed 6-slip community dock with a yellow dot. The concept was presented to the Parks Commission on June 17th. The Parks Commission recommended cash in lieu for any required park dedication rather than land dedication. because there does not appear to be a clear location for the site that would work well as a public neighborhood park. The more usable portions of the site are generally shown for buildings, parking, stormwater, and private resident amenities. The remaining areas appear to be wetlands, buffers, shoreline, and other constrained areas. That matters because accepting parkland also means accepting long-term city maintenance responsibility. Staff generally does not recommend accepting land that is isolated, difficult to access, environmentally constrained, or unlikely to function as a usable public park space. Cash in lieu would still require a park contribution, but it will allow those funds to support parks, trails, or recreation improvements where they can better serve the broader public. The Parks Commission also recommended a trail connection to the Highway 97 trail system, which could generally follow the proposed secondary access route if that alignment works with future access grading and agency review. A number of public comments focused on the size of the project and whether a 228-unit apartment development fits the location. This is one of the central questions for future review. The city's land use and zoning rules help answer whether the general use is allowed. The PUD and preliminary plat process help evaluate whether the specific design works on this particular site. At this concept stage, staff is not saying the current layout is acceptable as is. Staff is identifying the issues the applicant should be aware of and may want to address if they move forward. Those include how the buildings relate to nearby homes, how traffic enters and exits the site, how lake access would be managed, how agency comments would affect the plan, and whether an updated design could better respond to the concerns that have been raised. That leads into the land use and zoning question because several public comments ask why apartments are being considered on this property. Based on staff's review, the property is guided mixed use in the city's comprehensive plan and is zoned MU2, general mixed use. The MU2 designation is not new. The properties were identified for mixed use development as part of the city's 2030 comprehensive plan, which was approved by the city council in 2008-2009. The zoning map that applied the MU2 designation to this area was later approved by the city council through ordinance 596 on February 8th, 2010. That is important context because multifamily residential is an allowed use in the MU2 district. The district encourages a mix of uses, but does not require every individual project or building to include multiple uses. A residential apartment development is therefore not automatically inconsistent with MU2 zoning. The comprehensive plan identifies a target residential density range of 10 to 15 units per acre for this land use category. Based on the concept information provided, staff estimates this proposal at about 10 units per net developable acre. That appears to be within the planned density range, although a future formal application would provide a more detailed buildable area calculation. So to answer that public comment directly, the city does not appear to be starting from a place where apartments are prohibited on this site. The general use appears to be allowed under the current land use and zoning framework. But that does not mean the current concept is automatically acceptable. Because the project includes multiple apartment buildings, it would need to be reviewed through the planned unit development process. That process would allow the city to look more closely at site design, compatibility, access, sidewalks, screening of the development from the view of the surrounding neighborhood, lake access, stormwater, and any flexibility the applicant may request from city rules. So the zoning answer is only the first step. The more important question is whether the specific plan can be refined in a way that better addresses nearby homes, Clear Lake, and the site constraints. Traffic and access were among the most common public concerns residents raised. Residents raised questions about Highway 97, local street traffic, pedestrian and bicycle safety, emergency response, school busing, and whether the surrounding road system can support this level of development. Since a staff report was prepared, the city received concept level comments from MnDOT. MnDOT views the proposed Everton access as the primary access point for the development. MnDOT also indicated that the existing full access on Highway 97 is permitted for the daycare and would be considered secondary access for the apartment development. MnDOT also encouraged the daycare access to be realigned to use the primary access point on Everton. As the project moves forward, MnDOT would reevaluate the Highway 97 full access conditions and may consider changes that would allow right-in, right-out secondary access for both the daycare and the development. So to answer the public comments on traffic and safety, those concerns are being carried forward into the review. At this concept stage, staff is not saying the access plan is final. Staff would like to see future plans more clearly explain the primary access, the secondary access, and how the daycare access may be realigned, and how Highway 97 access would function after MnDOT review. The city engineer also identified several items he would like to see studied or addressed in more detail with a future application. These include sewer capacity, water main looping, fire truck turning movements, entrance design, and Everton Avenue improvements extending north of the proposed site entrance to address impacts from the development. He also identified stormwater, grading, utilities, lighting, landscaping, and tree preservation as future review topics. The main point is that access and infrastructure are major future review items. A future preliminary plat and PUD application should provide enough traffic, access, emergency route, and utility information for the city, MnDOT, the fire department, and the public to better understand how the site may function. A large portion of the public comments focused on Clear Lake, the proposed docks, stormwater, groundwater, wetlands, wildlife, and nearby natural resource areas. Residents raised concern about lake use, boat traffic, the proposed 6-slip dock, shoreline erosion, invasive species, stormwater runoff, private wells, soils, construction impacts, eagle nests, Blandings turtle, and the nearby Lamprey Pass Wildlife Management Area. Staff agrees that these are important issues to understand if the project moves forward. At the same time, it is important to be clear about the city's role. The city is not the permitting authority for every environmental issue raised in the public comments. Rice Creek Watershed District would review items such as stormwater management, erosion and sediment control, floodplain alteration, and wetland-related permits if the project proceeds. RCWD also indicated that more information about wetland impacts would be helpful, including whether certain impacts could be avoided or reduced. The DNR also provided concept-level comments. DNR asked for more information about how boat slips would be limited and how stormwater would be treated. DNR also provided comments related to Blandings turtle, rare plants, building height, and wildlife-sensitive lighting. For tonight's purposes, the city is not making those agency determinations. The more appropriate question is how those agency comments and site constraints should be reflected in an updated plan. That could include changes to the layout, access, dock area, boardwalk, grading, stormwater approach, lighting, or other design details. Staff also notes that based on the proposed 228 units, the project does not appear to trigger a mandatory environmental assessment worksheet based on unit count alone. However, that does not mean environmental review ends there. The site's constraints would still be reviewed through the city, RCWD, DNR, MnDOT, and other applicable agencies if the project moves forward. The main message is that lake, shoreline, and agency review issues are not separate from the planning discussion. They are part of what should shape any future preliminary plat and PUD application. To close, I want to summarize how staff is treating the public comments. The city recognizes that this concept has generated significant public interest and concern. A neighborhood meeting was held on June 3rd, and approximately 78 residents attended. The city also received written public comments, which were included in the packet. Staff also received two additional written comments now, opposing the proposal as presented, which have been provided to the Planning Commission this evening and are available on the desk. Taken together, the comments raise several issues that are directly relevant to future review. These include the project's scale and compatibility with nearby homes, traffic and safe access, Clear Lake and dock use, stormwater, groundwater, environmental concerns, agency review and site constraints, and whether additional information would be helpful before formal review. The additional written comment is generally consistent with those broader themes and also requests denial of the proposal as currently presented. The graphic on this slide organizes those comments into the main themes staff heard: neighborhood fit, traffic and safe access, Clear Lake and dock use, agency review, and site constraints, and more information before review. Some questions can be addressed tonight. This is not an approval. The applicant does not have permission to build, and the Planning Commission is not being asked to approve or deny the project. Also, based on staff's review, the general multifamily use appears to be allowed under the current MU2 zoning and mixed-use land designation. Other questions cannot be fully answered from the concept plan alone. The current concept does not provide enough detail to fully evaluate traffic, access, lake access, stormwater, groundwater utilities, construction impacts, or final site compatibility. Some issues will also require review by other agencies, including MnDOT, RCWD, and DNR. This is why staff is asking for non-binding feedback tonight. The most helpful feedback is what the applicant should consider changing, studying, or explaining before submitting a formal preliminary plat and PUD application. Helpful feedback could include site design changes to explore, studies or explanations that would help, agency comments that should be reflected in the next plan, or issues the City Council should understand when it provides its own concept feedback, which would be this coming Monday. Again, tonight is not the final decision point. The goal is to help the applicant understand the public concerns and planning issues that should be considered if this concept moves forward. The applicant is here this evening and is available to answer questions about the concept. Staff is also available to answer questions about the city's review process, zoning, land use, public comments, agency comments, and what would typically be reviewed at a preliminary plat and PUD stage. With that, staff would be happy to answer the questions, and the applicant is available as well.
Commissioners, any question for staff?
Not yet.
Susan?
Is that the end of your presentation regarding the project?
Yeah.
Okay. And yes. Do we know, the Highway 97 improvements were planned 10 to 12 years ago. Do we know what the design parameters for the Everton access to 97 were? In other words, when MnDOT designed that access, they looked at what they thought would be the the maximum number of cars in and out. Do we know what those design parameters were, and does this fit within those design parameters?
I can say that one of the things that the city engineers outlined, that the current Everton on north of 97 is not to standard for this, and one of the requirements that we would want to see in a preliminary plat is the potential update to that road into 97 to better address this additional
Load.
vehicle load.
We do have an ordinance in the city that says that you cannot build something so high that it will prevent the adjoining properties from using solar or wind generation. Folks tonight are concerned about shading, the three-story buildings shading their properties. As this moves forward, we need to take a look and make sure that a three-story building adjacent would not violate our ordinance on solar gain or wind gain.
I think that's good feedback for the developer and what we should expect to see in the preliminary plat.
A big piece of this is within the shoreland overlay. We typically do not encourage building within the shoreline overlay. Most of the properties for folks tonight were put in before that was even a thing. And we're used to non-conforming uses. But our planning commission has tried to reduce the amount of non-conforming uses. How will staff be looking at the area that's within the shoreline overlay, which is quite frankly the majority?
Almost all of it, yeah.
The dwelling units.
I think it would be the same as there's an impervious cap that we'd be looking at to make sure it was protected. And I think one of the feedbacks that we heard tonight is the potential inclusion of underground parking garage if this site is suitable to minimize some of those impacts. I think that is good feedback for the developer as well of what should be something we look at.
One of my other concerns is one that our city typically does not consider ever. And that is, from a geomorph point of view, these soils are awful. They're just bloody awful. And when we are going to be looking at building permit for these buildings, will the city be looking at the structure needed to support these buildings in a highly plastic soil structure, and what kind of underlayment is going to be required, borings, et cetera? We all know what MnDOT had to go through, but I know that the stuff closer to the lake itself is a little more challenging.
And I think in the discussions that I've had with our city engineer on this subject, he's very cognizant of the potential buildability of the site and would be really focused on making sure and bringing in the right knowledge to make sure that what is being developed here met met code and what would be safe to be able to be developed there. And I want to say you're correct on your discussion of the type of soils that are there, and the developer understands it too. and some of the, and that's just one of the kind of potential challenges with the site.
We have buildings and a couple of multi-units that were built in areas that, of similar soil structure. The developer goes away, the building owner changes, and 10 years later, there are challenges and issues. We do not have a rental licensing ordinance, really. We don't do that sort of thing. Folks can't come to us with mold issues, so that will, our opportunity to prevent future problems is in the, before it's built. Would the city, I understand the concern of the neighborhood with folks being able to walk through their backyards. Is fencing along the apartment property line, if it goes up, to prevent access to backyards, is that something that will be considered?
I think the feedback that staff will be providing after discussion would be the potential redesign of the site around that north side to maximize screening. Ideally, it wouldn't be man-made, it would be utilizing woodlands to maintain that screening and minimize that access. Yeah.
Looking at what's proposed, I'm not sure.
Well, I want to say it's a
Right.
concept. Right now, it's just
Right.
shapes on a page.
I understand that. It's my understanding Rice Creek hasn't really weighed in on where they're looking at, because there are significant wetland issues here.
And the developer's been in a lot of discussion with Rice Creek. We've had a lot of discussion with Rice Creek on the site. They understand the complexity of it, and will provide feedback and requirements to meet the permitting codes that he'll have to get to be able to build here.
And then I would strongly recommend against having trail access from this, if it goes forward, along the secondary access path. That is not where the PED crossing is. And we have enough challenges in areas now where we have a marked PED crossing, and they're not adhered to by the cross traffic. So if we're looking at PED crossing, it's got to be something that is at least where the existing crossing is, and the trail built to that. Those are
Commissioner-
my big ones across the top.
Commissioner Young, can I ask a clarifying question of the pedestrian access? Do you mean off of Highway 97 with the,
Yeah, it would, I heard potential trail access through the secondary
So-
access on 97.
yeah, so
And-
currently there is a trail that runs from that point to the light at Everton.
On the north side of 97?
Yeah, it was built as, or it was planned
Okay,
from the
when
daycare?
when I drove it tonight, I didn't see it.
Okay, then we'll double check, because I do believe it is part of the plans as the Highway 97 project, from the daycare to the light. But
It's on the south side of 97, it's not on the north side.
yes, there is a trail on the south side, yes, we do
Right.
recognize
And so
that.
what I don't want folks doing is trying to cross 97 at another location other than the light.
Yep, thank you for that clarification.
Susan, are you finished with your comments for now?
For now, yes.
Other commissioners?
Do you want our comments now, or should we listen to the applicant and then?
You can do it either way.
I'll listen to the applicant first.
That's what I'm going to do personally, but we welcome any other questions, just to clarify. I do have one before we go any further, and it has to do with the underground parking that we require in this district. He's showing all garages. Are we thinking the water table's too high, so, or it's just not aware that he needs to have underground
And
parking?
I think one of the things about that is, obviously, the code prescribes that through the PUD process, could potentially be one of the flexibilities that come through that. But ideally, it would be find a way to minimize that impervious, because that would be one of our main concerns.
All right. Other commissioners for the staff?
I have one. I mean, I think we're identifying that there's been a lot of mistakes made by different entities over the years that are all being compounded, and I don't think throwing more mistakes on top of it just because is a way to go. The first time I drove down the new 97, I said, what did they do? You know, it's like, are we in the middle of nowhere? They build this great big bridge with multiple lanes going across, all these extra turn lanes, and for some reason, when it hits Forest Lake, boom, one lane. And now we're gonna pack a bunch of other houses into an area that I think this concept is pie in the sky. I don't think we're gonna get anywhere near there, but it's gonna be tried to be maximized to the point where, again, mistakes that were made long before I know I was here, and I'm sure other commissioners and staff were here. So I'm not trying to point fingers, but at some point, you do have the responsibility to not make more mistakes. So I think I'm going into this. Going into this with the concept of prove that you can do this, not we have to allow this.
All right, having heard that, the applicant is here. Please state your name and address for the record. Spend a little time giving us your thoughts, or we can just fire away, but I think we'd rather hear your thoughts first.
Sure, I appreciate it, and thank you everyone for taking the time, the chair, commission, and residents for coming out here. My name is Steve Kavan. I live at 3 Goldfinch Lane in North Oaks, Minnesota. I also want to thank city staff for preparing a thorough report. Concept plan review process is a non-binding process, and they've done kind of above and beyond to identify issues and help think through the process, which I appreciate. That was the reason for the application, to get feedback, so that is very much appreciated. Let's see here. I had a larger amount, but given the interest of time, I'll kind of skip to a few points here. One thing I just want to point out, there have been 13 soil borings done on the site, and so we do have geotechnical work done on the site. Wetland delineations have also been done, as have rare plants studies, and when MnDOT was going through their design phase, they were well aware of the plans for the site. So although we have to go through the formal process and receive MnDOT's formal review, they at least were aware of what the site was zoned for and what the potential density was going into their construction. Let's see here. I do want to point out that prior to or coincidental with pursuing development, I have reached out to and had conversations with the Minnesota DNR, who owns the site to the west, with Washington County Land Trust, who has funds to buy sites like this, and Minnesota Land Trust. None of those organizations have deemed this a site that they think is high enough to preserve, and so this kind of leads me to where I'm at here. Let's see here. So with that, I guess I open it up for your questions and happy to try to answer them to the best of my abilities.
Don, we'll start with you.
Okay, I guess my primary concern is regarding the community dock area, and this has been brought up by the residents and around the lake, because I know that's come up before this commission. I don't know if it's on this lake or on Forest Lake, more than one time before that I've been here, and that's something that's been shot down very quickly, and I find that it's going to be a tough one to fly. I just don't see that passing or getting through this process. That's just my own personal thoughts on it, for all the reasons that you heard today of various residents and lakefront neighborhood owners speaking about, and other logistical issues if it's a community dock and safety, but not even getting into that. So that's a big concern of mine. The residents around the lake have raised all the other issues that I would have raised as well, and I think you probably heard those in the previous meeting. I don't know if anything new came out today along those lines. I made a couple notes when some folks were speaking. I know some folks thought that a decision was going to be made here today. I'll make it clear if it isn't clear. No decisions are made here today. This is just for you to hear everybody's input. And there was a mention, Ruth mentioned something about not being able to construct 3 stories high due to the airport. That's actually something I had not heard before, so if the city can add that to the list under the site constraints or what have you, I was not aware of that, if that is a constraint, and that's the first time I've heard it brought up. Other than that, I think the participation by the folks here, I've kind of raised all the issues, and then the city's synopsis of it here in the packet kind of covers all the concerns that I have on it, but they're very much concerns.
Thank you.
Commissioner?
I have a couple
Okay.
questions. What demographic are you going after with these apartments? Is there going to be higher end apartments, lower end, middle?
It's too early, so at this point, and I should, if I step back, I am not an apartment builder, and there is not kind of an apartment developer builder under contract, and so it could be, I think this would be a great senior housing site. I don't know where it will end up. This process helps potential apartment developers or builders to understand what the constraints are of the site, what the city's review process has been, so they can go through and design what is best for the site. And similarly, I have had a couple different groups look at the site in the past, and they have not wanted to do the boardwalk or the dock. That was something I put in there. I thought it'd be a nice amenity. Clearly, people feel otherwise. But that was something that I think, at the end of the day, the feedback and then just the extra cost. It's a big cost for a developer or an apartment builder to incur. And so I can't say definitively if it will happen or not, but the parties I've spoken to have not been in favor of it.
And I know this is just a sketch on paper, but rather than having square block apartments, is it possible to make the buildings a little more appealing, like more radiused, or have architectural detail that's a little nicer for the neighborhoods?
Without knowing what is going to be designed, it's hard to answer that. That would be ultimately, if it's a senior housing or whatever it ends up being designed at that point.
Okay.
Commissioner?
Just one last thing. In a previous iteration with the city, Clear Lake came to the city requesting assistance, and another lake in the city came to the city asking for assistance. And one of the things that always made me very favorable to requests from the Clear Lake Lake Association is that you have, at that time, better than 90% of your residents that are part of the Clear Lake Lake Association. That kind of cohesion and responsibility and demonstrated caring about not only your own home and your own dockage, but the lake as a whole. The way that you all have coordinated weed and invasives control, not only for your own properties, but for the center, with the DNR, is really something that you can be very, very proud of. And that other lake, at the time, had less than 33 or 30% of their residents that were really stepping up the way that you do. I see it. I appreciate it deeply. I appreciated it then, and I still do.
Other commissioners? Yep.
No, I think they covered the points that I was looking at, the traffic concerns at 97 Edgerton. We'll get the traffic studies on that. I want to hear from the Rice Creek, and I appreciate the comments from the city tonight. Thank you for everybody coming out.
One more. Steve, you did a really nice job with the PowerPoint and the slide thing. That I appreciated very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Go ahead, Corey.
I mean, I understand like we're at the beginning stages and what we're seeing on paper is effectively the bare minimum of what you're presenting and what can be developed into. But it really does to me look like just there has been no consideration for the surrounding area, just the road, the traffic, the things that have been raised overall. I think coming from somebody who grew up in the suburbs of a bigger city, traffic sucks when you start packing in more and more people. Accountability of people in that very dense area or very small area that's very dense sucks. So I think the concerns have been brought up. I don't want to just regurgitate them, but I think it's very much something to consider in terms of what you're putting into that area. It's not just that area. It is that whole street, that whole neighborhood, the entrance to Forest Lake. And I think it's not gonna hit the way it looks on paper, in personal opinion overall.
Thank you. Andy?
Would this property have voting rights as part of the lake association? That might be more of a staff question.
It's actually a private property owner matter, just because the Lake Association is private property. They do touch the lake, so it all just depends on that association's documents.
So that theoretically, this new apartment building could overrule all the votes on the lake, depending on how it's done. So that's a concern.
I don't know how
I
that
mean,
lake
but
association
this is a
made.
legitimate concern for the lake that needs to be addressed before things get down the road too far. I think not having a partner for what this thing will really look like, I think is a red flag. I understand this is very preliminary. I'm gonna reiterate, I think mistakes were made in the past in previous organizations' plannings. And I appreciate that other entities don't think that this is a wildlife area that matters, but the wildlife don't look at that line on a map and say, oh gee, I can't go over there. We're seeing fencing put along 97 and 35 that accommodate to prevent turtles from crossing roads. I mean, that's a reality. The animals are gonna go where they're gonna go, and if you literally turn the entire area into impervious surface, that's not okay, in my opinion. That's not something that's balancing into our city the way we want. It's not that I'm against apartments. I used to do property management. But this area, in my opinion, was probably zoned the wrong way, and I don't think we should continue with the mistake. I do have one specific question for the map. It says swim area in a lot of it, several places.
Stormwater management.
Stormwater management.
All right.
You know what, I made the same
As they
mistake.
used to be. I apologize.
Yeah.
You need your glasses,
That-
Andy.
That explains a lot. That makes more sense. Thank you.
Yeah. And if you don't mind, just, I can respond to some comments that were made. As part of the process, Rice Creek Watershed District will require that the stormwater runoff does not change and will likely go down from its current state. And that's what I brought that up because that's what the stormwater ponds are for, to control runoff. And even though you have up to 25% impervious surface, that water will go into those ponds and then be metered out so that the pace of the water infiltration is at or below its current level.
That's also a city build requirement, that you cannot have any runoff come from
Correct.
your
Yeah.
development.
Yeah.
Yes. So,
I will just say, I've dealt with Rice Creek Watershed in the past, and the problem is when you're the low spot on the map, you are the final spot when the heavy rains come. And even though you plan for what you're supposed to plan for, it gets worse. And when we get the 100 and 500 year floods, taking up that much impervious area in a wetland like this Whether it's wetland now or not, it is the natural buffer that this area needs.
Thank you.
So I don't live on Clear Lake, but I live on Forest Lake, and North Shore Apartments, which is a fairly large complex over there. They have no dock, and they seem to get along just fine. And it seems that all the neighbors like that also. So just, that's one comment. I'm a little disappointed you don't have a builder, because what we could see next could be radically different than this. So that doesn't warm the cockles of my heart, as my mother would say. I have a lot of concern on the traffic in and out going down, I believe that's Everton. I always screw up the streets over there, I apologize. It goes into a neighbor, and dumping 200 and some apartments onto that site, it's a side street. It is not a thoroughfare. It's not like 61 or 97 or even North Shore, which we got more dumping on, the whole apartment dumps on there. It's not a problem. But there's nowhere to go except, I believe I measured it today, if I understand it right, about 300 feet from there to the light. So you get about 10, 12 cars max stacked waiting at the light, which seems to me it's not going to go well. So I realize that development will probably happen here. I mean, we know that it's eligible, you know, they can do auto repair there, auto sales, they can build a bank, they can put a restaurant and a bar in there. All that's allowed in the zoning district. So you may be the least of the evils, but I think we have a long way to go based on what you presented today when you don't have a partner yet. This zone does require underground parking, so as Steve said, as part of the PUD, you probably looked at Ville garages instead, but I think that needs to be looked at seriously also. And I think that kind of ends my comments.
And the last thing about a PUD is, the PUD is designed to give some flexibility to a developer, but in return, there should be significant specific benefits to the city. In return for that flexibility. And I grant that this is very, very preliminary, but I don't see those yet.
Commissioners, any other comments? Staff, would you like to see any other comments from us, any concerns, any issues we did not discuss?
No, I think this has been thorough. Just want to remind everybody in this room that the man sitting to my left will be up there on Monday for the city council, and you're all welcome to come and provide additional comment for this being heard at that city council meeting. I'm sure everybody would like to have that opportunity to at least go to the city council. They'll be providing kind of the city's comprehensive comment, taking all the comments that have come from parks, the public, as well as this board right here, this commission, and providing like the official, here's our recommendation. So that's Monday night at 6 in this room.
And that runs just the same as tonight. It's not a public hearing. Comments will be accepted during open forum, but I will be there to encapsulate everything that's been discussed tonight, everything that's been in the record, or anything submitted before that meeting will be entered into the record as well. But again, their decision is non-binding feedback for the developer to determine if he wants to move forward.
Mr. Kavan, you have any other comments or any information you would like from the commission or the staff?
No, I do not. Thank you all for taking the time.
Thank you for coming this evening.
Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you for all coming and participating this evening. You're more than welcome to stay for the next item. I know it'll be even more riveting.
Well, you know, quite frankly,
No.
data centers is a big deal. So data centers in Forest Lake.
No.
No.
Let's just, no.
Don't start.
You're on the end.
We'll let the room clear for a minute here. Thank you.
Thank y'all.
How you doing, Pat? He was on the commission probably 15 years ago, maybe 10. Pat?
Probably
Yeah,
before
yeah.
I lived here.
That intersection could become the deadliest intersection in Forest Lake.
No, 202nd and 61.
You think so? Because it has that, but that offset is, you can't see around it.
202nd.
We ask you please clear the room so we continue our meeting. I don't. Trying to make the big bucks tonight. Thank you all. Well, I lost, we'll move to item 8, or zoning code, land use review, data centers. Abby, I saw your name at the top. Are you the one presenting, or Steve?
I'd be happy to. So,
It's all yours.
excellent, thank you. So I just want to, I think Steve puts right at the beginning, like, what's the top, what's the highlight here? The highlight is staff wants to have a preemptive conversation with both the Planning Commission and hopefully then the City Council about enacting a up to 1-year moratorium on data centers in Forest Lake. So as many of you may have known, unless you've been sleeping under rocks lately, is that there's been a lot of interest in all states, but in the metro area about data centers. And a lot of cities are finding themselves either maybe backed against a wall or not well protected in terms of whether or not data centers are addressed in their zoning code. So the city of Forest Lake actually owns 123 acres that our city was actively marketing for a data center up until more recently when the EDA and the council decided to kind of maybe move away from that a little bit, recognizing that there might be higher and better land uses for this.
Abby, can you describe where the 123 acres are?
At the southeast intersection of Fenway Avenue and Headwaters Parkway, so kitty corner from Leela, there's a big open vacant land that city owns. That's the piece of property that Headwaters 123 is what it had been dubbed. It was more recently the EDA and City Council has directed me to kind of work towards marketing it in a different way to maximize the land developability there. More jobs, more tax base than a data center would provide. So fast forward to now, when cities are kind of finding themselves a little backed against the wall. Staff took a look at our code and we outright permit data center, questionably outright permit data centers in our business park districts. I believe that our zoning code was set up this way, maybe with a little ambiguity to not know for sure if it's exactly a data center or a data center of what size, or if a data center is a part of a different type of use. Regardless, I believe that it was set up that way specifically because of Headwaters 123 and the city's desire to potentially, attract a data center at some point. So staff wanted to bring this to you because what we believe we should be doing is asking the City Council to enact a moratorium that would give us up to 1 year to, 1, define data centers, 2, have a conversation, Planning Commission, City Council, and the community of whether or not we'd like data centers and where we would like data centers and how big of data centers versus, a standalone data center versus a portion of a property as part of a data center, all those conversations, and then performance standards about them. So tonight you heard on the Clear Lake Apartments, garages need to be underground. That's a performance standard specific to the parking for MU2. Right now, we don't have any performance standards for these types of uses, and that I do believe is where we could be most liable if we ended, or not liable. Liable is not a good word. Exposed, because our maybe screening standards might not quite address this type of use or the ancillary requirements of this type of use. So tonight I'm asking you to discuss this and to hopefully you consider making a recommendation to the City Council that the City Council enact a moratorium on data centers to give us some time to define them, establish whether or not we'd like to see them, where we'd like to see them, and then performance standards for them within the city. Any questions?
Don?
Yeah. How would we be exposed without putting on this official moratorium? What's our exposure? I mean, someone coming in and saying we want to put it in a data center?
and provide water and electricity to us.
Well,
So-
there would be a whole bunch of negotiation. I mean, these are companies with a lot of financial backing.
Yep.
And if we have concerns such as water and electricity and all those things, you can bring them to them, and they
Generally-
could possibly bring a lot of positive things to the city.
100%, I do believe. I do want to say
That's-
from.
I'm just curious what.
Yep, from staff's perspective, I'm not saying that data centers are the evil enemy that you might see a lot of people thinking they are. They do provide for construction jobs. They might not provide for long-term jobs, but they do provide for construction positions for a few years within a community. They are strong tax base earners within a community. And they are designing systems that can be more self-reliant than older systems that don't take as much pressure on the natural resources. I don't necessarily think that they are a bad thing, and I want to reiterate that staff doesn't think that that's the reason we should do this. The concern that I have is we should probably take a pause to look at our code to see if we are well protected. Just as a reminder, outright permitted uses, you don't really get a whole lot of say in them, right? When we conditionally approve something or when we end up doing a planned unit development, then we have that a lot more, we'll trade this for that, type of thing sometimes. When you have an outright permitted use, you have to go by the standards that are in place, either for that type of use or that type of design. And I would say that in looking at our design standards for the business park district, especially with some of the accessory type of features that they might have, cooling towers, solar panels, exterior power generation, that I just don't believe that our code as it sits right now would adequately screen from adjacent properties, and we may not have a good design in the end should we choose to allow for a data center, or should a data center application come forward. Does that make sense? Now, if it was on our property, yes, Don, I think that's a really great. If it's on the city's Headwaters 123, then yes, I think we can say, before we would sell you this, we want XYZ. What I am concerned is there is more business park land zoned within the city that is not owned by the city.
Because my concern would be if we throw a moratorium on it, then do we possibly miss out on an opportunity?
Well,
Because they can't do it here, they go on to Wyoming or wherever to do it.
Yep. That is a good question. We are in the technology corridor, so there's several cities and counties along I-35. Connexus and Xcel Energy have been partners in trying to market these for high energy users. It could happen that it could go to a Wyoming, to a North Branch. I think taking a pause, and it keeps saying for up to 1 year, statutorily, we can only do up to 1 year. It would be my hope that we kind of work through that process, with maybe even by the end of this year.
Yeah.
So.
And then we could shorten the moratorium then, end the moratorium?
Yeah,
if we
you
got
end
through
the
that?
moratorium when you adopt an ordinance, if you want to adopt an ordinance, or you just say, nope, we're done, we're okay with our code.
So is this going to affect my zoning corridor or updates?
Everything affects your zoning code updates at the moment.
Just wanted to hear it live.
Yep.
All right, other comments, concerns?
I definitely have some concerns with the length of time, a full year for it. I think we could be missing the boat if they're looking to develop in this area. A year's a long time to go, especially if they're doing it right now.
I only included that to point out the statutory requirement. We don't actually have to state any time in I may have put recommendation for a 1 year moratorium. You could say 6 months, you could say 6 weeks. That's not the thing necessarily. It's the pause that gives us that ability for up to a year. I certainly would take the Planning Commission's discussion and recommendation on where we kind of feed this into our priority level, but we are also in peak development, and new inquiries are coming in every day. So as much as we want to work this in, I do think that this probably would be closer to fall where we'd have a lot more time to work on it.
Andy?
I think it would be very citizen-friendly to make sure whatever ordinance changes we do include that we do not have NDAs. as part of these negotiations. That is a very common practice for data centers. When they approach a city, they sign NDAs, and then the city cannot disclose to their citizens what they're allowing in the city. So I think if you want to see the room 10 times fuller than this, you include NDAs. Or you don't require, you allow NDAs. I am not.
Prohibit NDAs.
Yes, we want to prohibit. If the city allows them to require NDAs for negotiations, you're going to have a very upset citizenry.
Sure, I will say that's generally not something you'd put in your zoning code, but that is something that I think that I can take and bring to the council in regards to policy, city policy.
Because I think, why I do think it's important to do some type of moratorium to get our ducks in a row is, what if we were talking about a data center on the Clear Lake land? I mean, that's not a very good use next to a bunch of residential and wildlife. So I think it's important for us to make sure we get this right, hitting pause. And I think you are not prepared for the amount of people who do not want data centers near them. So I don't think embracing them with open arms is quite the right approach.
Susan?
As I remember our 2030 comp plan, we need to think about another well. We need to be thinking about the water that we're supplying to our residents. And I was really sobered when I was up at the neighborhood meeting and realized how much along County Road 50, north of 50 and toward the Harrow area, the sheer number of dwelling units that are going in there that we have, platted and together. And I just want to make sure that as you are considering what the requirements or what we would ask of a data center would be, that we make sure that the water and energy requirements balanced against the water and energy requirements of our residents are a big piece of the evaluation.
I will say that at the moment, without a moratorium, I don't know that staff is going to just take this on. We recognize that we need to, but we also have to be able to work on it piecemeal.
right,
And so I will write that down if we do end up, if that is something the city chooses to do.
And I'm sorry to interrupt, but I would consider those as reasons for a moratorium, because we need to really understand what our development, I consider development boom right now.
Yeah.
Where we are with water and sewer and electrical needs.
Yeah. That's a really good point, because we are, in some areas of the city, I would say that until there's additional electrical capacity, electrical generation created, that there are areas where there is lower amount of electrical availability and water, especially as we move into the southwest corner of the city.
And the Northeast doesn't have water.
Yeah, well, it never did, so it was never
Leave us
planned
alone,
for
leave
it.
us alone.
I'll make a note of that, and we'll take a look at that.
Yeah, it's been noted.
One of the other issues as these have been going across the country is, if your city is not prepared, you have to allow them in, and then if they're underpowered, the residents get their bills increased to make up that difference. So there's a lot of moving parts to make sure that we're ready so that our residents aren't negatively impacted financially to help this business make money.
And I really appreciate that staff wants to be proactive on this. Thank you very much.
Other comments? Should we take a straw poll of how many are in favor?
With a moratorium on, yeah.
Yeah, for a moratorium? Aye. I think we're in favor.
Is that all we need tonight? Is
Well, and I put it on as discussion, but I would like it if you made a motion for a recommendation to the city council.
I will make a motion that we do up to 1 year moratorium for the city to analyze and develop a data center plan.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank
Anything
you.
else you need, Abby?
Not at this time. We'll keep you posted on that and what kind of our timeline on that plan will be.
All right, thank you. We'll move to number 9, our updates. We'll start with our honorable councilperson Larson.
Good evening, Chairman, Commissioners. It's been a little while since we've met. I hope everybody had a nice holiday. Not pertaining to the commission, but I'd just like to say that I was at the inaugural of the farmer's market out here in the lot, and it was fabulous. Great response. Lots of people, a lot of vendors they want to bring in, but they don't want to have 9 people that are selling bread. So they're kind of moving it around a little bit.
When is that?
Pardon, sir?
When is that?
Saturdays from 8 until noon, and July 11th, this coming Saturday, the corn will be coming to this farmer's market.
There you go, you got it straight. The other thing is Arts in the Park has been phenomenal participation. The weather's been cooperative to a point. It's been hot and stuff like that, but we've had a lot of people out there. I was fortunate enough to be out there the first Tuesday at our booth and stuff, and everybody was having a great time. And yeah, I think it was well enjoyed by everybody. So if you do get a chance or have not, please maybe take a Tuesday night, come out with your lawn chair, listen to some music or whatever, and take in some of our fine vendors and community members there. As far as other city business goes, I don't really have anything right now. Due to the long holiday and things like that, we haven't really had a council meeting. So as you all know, we're meeting Monday, and we have a lot on our plate for that. So if you have any questions of me or anything I can help you with, I'll do my very best.
How is budget development going?
It's a work in progress. How's that?
You're getting good at this.
I'm doing my best. There's been a lot of things and that have kind of been produced and stuff like that. We're cautious with what we're doing because there is a lot of things. So I think as far as staff goes, the council goes, working with the city engineer and stuff to try to make a smooth progression with things. We want progression, we want the recession part of it, but we want to make sure we want to do it right. So, but lots of things going on.
With the expected increase in dwelling units, there will be an increased demand on city services.
Yes, there will be. And as you know, you've seen, we've had some retirements in our police department, but again, not too long ago, we had an addition to our fire department. So now we have an assistant chief. So I think Mr. Newman is gearing that gentleman up for all his procedures and things like that to maybe eventually retire at some point. But he's a very busy man as well. So
Say it isn't so.
yeah. So as far as city staff goes, I think we've been doing well. We haven't hired anybody, I don't think, or whatever. Maybe Abby can help me out with that side of the fence there a little bit. We're still behind a little bit on a few staff members?
Yeah, I mean, I think the city has filled all positions that councils prior to the 26 budget. So positions approved in like 24 and 25, I think that they are all filled. On the administration side, I can't speak for PD and fire. They do their own thing. We do have at least one vacancy in building inspections, but that's been a long-standing vacancy, so we are actually doing interviews later this week. There were staffing requests made to the city council, but the city council hasn't made any determination of whether or not they want to include those requests in the 2027 budget.
So Jolene is the official city administrator
She's
now.
the acting city administrator,
Interim.
So
acting interim city administrator.
is that a vacancy or not a vacancy?
It's not a position that the city is actively seeking to fill at the moment, but I do believe the intent is to after the election.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any
Anything
other
else?
questions for Mr. Larson? Thank you for participating this
You did an
evening.
amazing job for the July 4th. Public Works, police, fire, all stepped up big time, and it's appreciated.
Yeah. Thank you again all for your participation. We all appreciate you, so thank you again.
You, Steve, anything for us?
Oh, man, do I ever. I hope you enjoyed tonight. We're kind of, I think the next planning commission, I was just going through our schedule. The next planning commission should be, maybe a little breather for you. Maybe not. We have another concept plan. We have the neighborhood meeting tonight. It's for Birchwood Estates, KJ Walk. Next week, they go to Parks. In 2 weeks, they'll be here with another concept plan for a development that's just south of Amberley Woods that just got approved. As Commissioner Young was pointing out, this is one of the giant development areas that the city is seeing, and a boom is very much an understatement for the historical growth that this city is under in the amount of developments looking to expand here. So our work is cut out for us, and I had Abby here tonight to make sure that she heard the Chair Gerard bring up the code updates. A big part of the reason why those have been delayed is because of the gangbusters of developments that we have coming in. Good times across the board.
Just so you know, Steve, that's your problem, not Abby's, that you haven't updated.
I said, could you come here and cover me? Could you cover me with Chair Gerard? We will be getting into that. I think it will be pushed to probably when we get out of this really fast-paced development season. And speaking of that development season, again, Birchwood Estates will be here the 22nd at the next meeting. But also, I wanted to give you a heads up that Hidden Creek South, if you remember, we had a public hearing and it was immediately tabled in February. Then there was discussions that the developer was having with the council regarding some improvements to Headwaters Parkway. Those conversations have been ironed out, decisions have been made. Now the developer is wanting to continue. So we're working with him to get an updated kind of plan set that reflects the decisions that have been made by the council. So we're looking at probably August 13th or the August 8th. I'm trying to look at my schedule. August 12th meeting that would potentially be that coming back, as well as a number of public hearings for some variances that are on the docket. So you may get a little bit of a reprieve on at the next planning commission, but come August 12th, it's going to be it's going to be a big meeting as it's planned now. I also wanted to say it was brought up Arts in the Park and how great it is. It's not great yet because we'll be out there, and I mentioned this last time, we'll be out there the 21st of this month, August 4th and August 18th. And the Community Development Department will be out there to kind of discuss some of the downtown plan, what's being proposed potentially for improvements to the park down there, especially with the specific question of the visitors and residents of the area of the boat launch that's there. There's some discussions of potentially expanding the green space, including an amphitheater there. So we are bringing that option as an interactive kind of exhibit for the visitors of Arts in the Park. So if you see us out there, make sure you stop by and you put a sticker on the poster that you like the most. One that either has the boat launch or one that has a new amphitheater with a kayak launch, non-motorized launch is what's kind of being suggested with some of our planning. So we'll be out there again the 21st, the 4th, and the 18th. So come by, say hi, and get a lollipop.
Questions for Steve?
Didn't he do a fabulous job tonight on presentation?
Yeah, very
Spot
nice.
on. Yeah, fabulous
And
job.
I think it's more impressive, I say this again, I'm not used to such decorum with something that's so, with a lot of passions. And I'm constantly impressed by this city and their ability to be able to communicate without yelling, not quite the situation in the state that I just moved from. So I really appreciate that about here, for sure.
So do I.
Yeah, absolutely.
Abby?
So I know we all talk about this boom that we're going through. Just for reference, I think it's 10 different land development plats that are being processed through the city in some fashion or another right now. And that doesn't even include, we have about 8 just site plan reviews. So commercial redevelopment, reuse of existing sites. And that's just going through those planning stages, not what has actually been already approved by you, but are meeting the conditions of approval, and we're working through legal agreements. So we're right now, I would say, at the best I can kind of tell in terms of planning of at least where the city was kind of just post-recession. We maybe haven't seen construction that we're going to gear up for now since at least 2012 or even pre-recession. So just for reference, there's a lot going on. Part of the reason Stephen hasn't gotten to the zoning code and I haven't gotten after him, so I do want to defend him in that. He did mention that long-range planning kind of project, the downtown plan called for a lakeside park shoreline study that would look to stabilize the shoreline. As part of that conversation was whether or not the boat launch should be moved. Several years ago, the council said, yeah, that boat launch should be moved. New Parks Commission said, you know what, we really would like to vet this out with the public. So that is the big intent, is to really kind of see, should this launch be moved? Should we put an amphitheater, is that what we're calling it? Not an amphitheater.
I think it's amphitheater.
But it's
band-
not, isn't a
Bandstand.
band shell?
Band
Who
shell, there you go.
who knows what it's gonna look like quite yet, but a larger performance stage. But the biggest reason that the city is trying to do this is because our shoreline needs to be stabilized, and we need to finalize the plan for what that shoreline is gonna look like. And so do encourage you to go out there or tell your friends, there are some online surveys out right now. If you're a launch user, there's a special survey, and then there's another one of just users. So other long-range planning things, the city started to work with Washington County on a County Road 50 corridor study. So this is the corner of County Highway 61, where kind of the airport meets and crosses over into Susan's world, but where a lot of our development is happening. So that the corridor study is going to look all the way from County Road 60 or State Highway 61 all the way to Manning Avenue. So city staff right now is working with a project management team in the county on what that corridor is going to look like. And so you might see some public engagement opportunities coming out probably closer to fall on that one. Additionally, the city's been working with the cities of Hugo, Columbus, Lino Lakes, and the EDAs of both Washington and Anoka County on a corridor study of Elmcrest Avenue. That's our western boundary. Gravel road right now, but we've got a little bit of asphalt at the top and a little bit of asphalt in Lino Lakes, and development's moving towards it. And so really trying to look at what that corridor looks like in the long run. Lots of just in general long-range planning going because we want to stay in front of some of that development stuff. Next week, the Parks Commission, I believe, will look at an update or will consider recommendation of approval on an updated parks plan, master parks trails open space plan. So that's out there for folks to take a look at. Got some crinkles over there, Susan? Any questions?
I need to take a look.
And then I know that there was conversation here about the desire for a joint workshop with the city council. Staff has been in discussions with interim administrator Jolene, with Stephen, taking a look at also just our timeline for comprehensive plan update. I think we'll be aiming for that workshop in the fall to be addressing some precursors to engagement for comprehensive plan. Also talking about some of the opportunities that the city has in terms of how we can better partner with the Met Council. So if there's other things you think about along the way that you want to have conversations about, feel free to reach out to Stephen and I. We're happy to see what we can try to maximize that to make sure that we're working in coordination, Planning Commission, City Council. I know that was a lot. Probably not a lot you get, but you don't see me as much anymore.
Questions
So
for
I want to
Abby?
fill you with a lot of things that are happening and why you don't see me as much anymore.
We do thank you for gracing us with your presence this evening.
I appreciate it.
Other questions for
It's
or
hard to
comments,
not
Abby?
keep, it's hard to keep my mouth shut. I'm not, I try really hard to just let you guys keep doing what you're doing. So you're all doing great and I appreciate you.
One
Tim?
quick question. You said we haven't seen building numbers like this since 2012. How many roofs are we talking about? How many individual homes?
Well, right now, the actual permitting is still pretty low. The number of homes that are getting, potentially platted, I would say in the next 3 to 5 years, we're gonna see probably numbers close to 150 homes per year. So it might be another 500 homes in the next 3 years is really feasible.
That's less than what we've already platted, we've already approved. So you think it's gonna take, probably 10 years to build out what we've already?
I don't think it'll, we haven't platted 500 homes.
You're talking about actually completing the houses.
Yeah, I'm talking about completing the homes, probably 150 per year over the next 3 years, so maybe that 500. The plats, so we may have planned unit development for more than 500 when you look at Hidden Creek and you look at Chestnut Creek. But what I'm talking about is the actual then phasing of the final plat. So a good example is Hidden Creek 4th has come in, it's only 18 homes. Chestnut Creek, Havenwood, even though it's 120.
116,
Thank you. Their first phase is only coming in with.
61.
So, that's where, and then those 61, between the 18 at Hidden Creek and 61 at Havenwood, of those going to be built in 27 and probably might not be all. I don't know that for sure, but I'm trying to stay still mildly conservatively because I think anything more than about 150, the city's systems are going to be taxed, and not just our emergency response, but I talk about our building permitting abilities, our inspections, engineering, all of those things.
I assume we haven't talked about, we don't talk about schools in this commission. We haven't ever, but I assume that's a concern when you're putting in that many new roofs.
We got plenty of room in the schools.
Oh, do we?
There's-
I don't honestly know that, so that's
Yeah.
good to hear.
Closed one building, we tore down another one.
Okay, well, that's news to me.
I mean, we haven't had any conversations with the district lately, but I do think that there is room within the system as it sits right now. As a reminder, though, our household size is going down, and the average age isn't getting younger. And so that it does reflect that even though we are adding rooftops, we might not always be adding school-age children. All great questions, though.
Anything else for Abby? Okay, Jesse?
Nothing.
Don?
Yeah, the wall there, what's
I
going
don't
on?
know. I just noticed it when I walked in
Okay, as long as
tonight.
it's on somebody's to-do list here.
We'll make sure that we'll take a look at it.
Maybe snazz it up for the council meeting.
Yeah.
I mean, we're down here.
I get a push,
I
I get a
agree.
push pin up there or something. I think there may have been discussion about actually resurfacing them. You can see some areas where the panels look like they're either have a little relief or a little,
Well,
but
they're
I
not
can get,
supposed to be even, is my understanding.
I can get you an update on that at your next meeting.
Drives me nuts, but I don't think they're meant to be even. And I'm
Well, no, but like the one in between the two with the vents up there, there's a way where you can definitely see it's been peeling apart some, so.
all right, now that we can treat the walls.
Yeah.
Andy, anything?
Nothing, thank you.
Tim?
I'm good.
Corey?
Nothing.
Susan?
The farmer's market has been so much fun, and we've got some really great vendors. There's a mix of veggie folks and honey and syrup, and we're trying to bring in some meat vendors. Baked goods, both gluten-free and real. There's a lady there that's got some kombucha.
That's
It's
8
pretty
till
cool,
noon.
and it's right here, and the beauty of it is, you're close. You're not trying to carry 12 pounds of veggies for 12 blocks.
And it is growing
right
each
there.
week. Staff is strategically trying to add vendors that are not to excessively compete with one another, but continues to add new vendors each week, so.
It's Saturday, 8 to noon.
Saturday, 8 to noon.
Are you guys getting commission on this or something?
Actually, the staffing of it, the Lions provided the funding, and the Rotary is providing the folks. It's a collaborative
It's
thing.
brand new. I think we've only been doing it 2 weeks, so trying to get some marketing in 3 weeks, marketing out.
I only have one comment. I was at the last planning
You
commission.
were,
there.
I was gonna make that comment. It was a miss-
But that was on June 10th, and the agenda tonight said it was on the 24th of June, and we canceled that meeting, but it didn't occur to me that. So I was here, so I apologize for not knowing I was at the last meeting.
Is there somebody you want me to beat for that?
No, we're good. It's just things happen. With that, the chair is looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I got a motion, I got a second?
Second.
I got a motion, a second, non-debatable motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you all. Enjoy the summer.